Valentia crashed through the woods. Humans howling and screaming like wild animals thundered past the trees behind her. Torches flickered behind trunks and fluttered in the wind of pursuit. Valentia couldn't pull ahead, tripping over sticks and stones in the dark. Twigs lashed her as she tore past, leaves and branches crunched underfoot. Valentia's heart thundered in her ears. The moon, just a silver sliver in the sky, blinked through the branches. Fingers brushed her black hair. Tight fear gripped her chest as her breaths came ragged and harsh. Her head jolted back. A tight grip tangled in her hair. Her legs flew out from under her as she tugged a hunting knife from her belt and blindly stabbed. The northerner grunted and his grip loosened. She fell to the ground. Ignoring the pain, she launched herself onward. In her rush, sticks tangled in her legs and she tumbled forward. She rolled down the hill, sliding over loose stones and leaves. Her head cracked on a rock. When she woke, she was naked, her hands tied to a tree, bark biting into her back. Pain racked her mind and a dozen bruises covered her arms and legs. Panicked, she tugged as hard as she could on the rope, rough fibers biting deep into her flesh. "Naughty, naughty," a slurred feminine voice chided. "Killing your big sisters, little one." Ice ran through her blood. Valentia pulled her legs up to cover her bare form. Dull sunlight did little to brace her from the cold winds. But nothing could match her fear. The demon strode around the tree, towering over Valentia. A man who seemed a child by comparison, who looked down on Valentia greedily, followed. Valentia's eyes widened. The demon continued. "You will learn humility before your ascension, little sister, before your true birth." The demon took a step behind the northerner and motioned the man forward. The greed in his eyes spread to his mouth, a vile, evil grin stretching across his face. Valentia screamed. Episode 2, The Goregorger. Undead stormed down the bridge, slamming into wooden spikes. Wood splintered under the weight as grasping hands reached forward. Stones crashed down from the guards on the walls as Dogman worked his axe and Malara her daggers into the rotting flesh behind the crude barrier. Ulysses sniped vomit-spewing zombies from atop the wall. A crow caw pierces the moans and grunts of the undead. A hook flies from the shadows, blurring towards a guard. The man screams as he is dragged from the wall. His voice is suddenly cut off by a sickening crunch. The smack of slobbering lips sends chills down men's spines. One by one, the guards are stripped off the walls, and the slog of undead pound the barricade until it finally breaks. Dogman and Malara back away into the town. Fleshy hands, gnarled and massive, emerge from the shadows, pinching out the torches on the bridge in fat fists. A brute and a few remnants follow doggedly, but a shambler's nature is sluggish. The torches by the gate extinguish like the ones on the bridge. Darkness creeps closer with thundering steps. Taking cover behind more barricades set up around the village center, the players fight and slay the last straggling undead. The screech of a crow grated at the ears as a Goregorger barreled out of the night. Its bloated gut oscillates with each tremendous step. Its bones creaked under its girth. Dogman dodged out of the way and Malara got body checked, launching her away from the monster. Chains slid off of its arm as it hurled its hook at Ulysses, The rusted steel howled past her head to bring a chunk of the inn hurtling back to the Goregorger. With its other arm, the monster pulled its massive cleaver over its head, where it hovered like a headsman's blade. Like coming doom it fell, the Goregorger putting its full tremendous weight behind the blow. Dogman sidesteps and the blade crashes next to him. Stone and dirt spray out, prickling Dogman's skin and leaving bruises. Malara slips under the monster's legs, leaving bleeding streaks across its thighs. The cuts are thin and shallow. A crow caws from the Goregorger's shoulder. The axe rises and falls. Ulysses shoots the crow and it attempts to flee, but the Goregorger snatches it back, forcing the bird to the peeling flesh of the undead's shoulders. Charlotte and Samwise leap onto the zombie's back, clawing, biting, tearing. Jonathan commands Ulysses, killing the bird. The chain whips out, glancing but not hitting Ulysses. Malara feels that she's beating on a tree as her knives find little purchase. Jonathan commands Dogman to strike with his axe, as the Kraken Man commands his canines. A scar splits the monster's skin as the players slowly whittle it down. The hook finally lands on Ulysses and she is dragged before the Goregorger and devoured. Amongst the people locked within the church is a man, large and burly. He is cowered with the rest, and in this cramped church little would stop the Goregorger from slaughtering people in waves. The overfilled space prevented all combative motions. He is suffocated in the close confines, dread weighing on him as much as press of bodies. The man pushes through the crowd, opens the door, and emerges. He slips away, shifting around the battle, only to glance at the men and women fighting the bloated, rotting monster, chortling in great coughing hacks. He sees the fear in his heart, in the eyes of those few brave souls. Javelins spring from the Goregorger's back like the beast's own antlers, as Elidas joins the fray. Jonathan commands Dogman to throw grit into the behemoth's eyes, leaving it blind. It howls, waving its oversized cleaver back and forth with sloppy, repetitive strikes. Its blindness leaves it open, and with combined efforts the creature is slain, its massive corpse wavering before finally losing integrity and slamming to the ground. There is an eerie silence that falls on the small town of Bivio. Through the blood and the dark, people begin to relax, and the black hole that is the sun peeks over the horizon. Snow drifts in from north winds. It is the morn of winter. Beer and food is shared, and the townspeople rejoice. The mayor awards the players 1 gold worth of silver and copper for their troubles. Discussions are had, and the players find that they share a destination, Elidas included. This night would be dark, like the last, but the next will see the half moon, and travel will be safe again. The departure is planned, and in the slow break of dawn, on a cloudy day, with snow tumbling gently in the air, we are off to Immortus. The crow alighted onto Liber's outstretched arm. The letter was made of waxed paper. We are to head for Mortis. Our informant there hasn't contacted the Citadel for nearly 3 months. Sean whistles. I don't know if we got the muscle to influence a High Lord city. Quad grunts his agreement. Doesn't matter. We have our orders. If we don't go now, it's possible that winter will seal reinforcement to the city for 7 or more months. Sean shrugs. There'll be women. That's enough for me. The two turn to their companion. The big man rests a hand on his chin, then slowly nods. The players march off, leaving plenty of time for rest and breaks as they move. Days are long, cold marches, and at night comes the whispering. Creatures that pretend to be human whisper in their ears or stalk them when they're alone. A fight with one's own carnal desires is fought every night. Some fall to temptation, growing sickly, For some strange reason, these creatures appear warped and hideous to Elidas, with sagging flesh and dripping pus from open sores. As the moon grows fat and near as bright as the sun, the whispers get worse. The road runs alongside a river, slowly growing from streams. One night, as Elidas is on guard, 3 shadows approach. Their forms are unclear and footsteps quiet for the size of the creatures. He waits nervously as they approach. Closer and closer they come, till, at last, Sean waves to Elidas, and the other 2 squires stroll on by. Slowly over the course of the next day, the river grows into a lake. Later, in the early morn, Elidas spots a shape in the water, bobbing gently with the slight waves. The crow, as it happened to be, had a crossbow bolt through its chest. A message is tied with a dark blue ribbon to one foot. It's water damaged, and tears as Elidas peels it from the dead bird. However, with a little time, he manages to reconstruct it on a flat stone and make some copies. The message reads, "My lady censor has disappeared. I request aid. Not only a replacement, but several squires are required for the investigation. Watcher of Immortus, Alexander." "But what does it mean?" asks Dogman. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Hit that cursed little bell. And I hope to see you around my campfire again.